push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Yoakley with you. We got a great show for you. Special guest coming right up that you're going to love. I know him. You know him. You love him. And we will debut him here in just a moment. But first, we get to On This Day in Sports History. Let's hit it. All right, on this day in sports history, not too long ago, 2013, American Serena Williams wins her fourth season-ending tennis title, beating Li Na of China 2-6, 6-3, 6-0 in the WTA Championship Final in Turkey. So, why is that important? Well, gets us into the conversation today of who could be, might be the greatest female athlete of all time. And with that, we bring in the GOAT himself, Mr. Michael McKenzie, the voice of the Beaver Local Beavers. And of course, we'll be having the call tomorrow with Beaver Local in the postseason. You'll be alongside Mr. Chris Sigler, which I know you're amped up about. You guys have a pregame going. But before we get all of that, Mikey, greatest female athlete of all time.
That's a tough one off the bat. I think I'm going to piggyback off of the this day in sports history. I'm going to go with Serena Williams on this one. Most Grand Slams of all time. I mean, no contest that she's the greatest female tennis player of all time, but I'm going to say she's the greatest female athlete of all time. I don't think we've ever seen dominance quite like that.
I don't think so either. I mean, you can look at Sue Bird, who's been tearing up the WNBA for years. It's tough. It's tough treading out there. I can't think of her name, the Olympic swimmer right now, who's been lighting up the past few Olympics for America. Good old USA. Gosh, I got to go Williams too. I got to go Williams. And I loved when she had her speech. She said she's not done. She's not retired. We had the whole, going out on a limb thing, the Serena, last time we'll ever see her play, and then she comes out last week and says, I'm not retired, which is good. But sometimes, kind of like in professional wrestling, you kind of want them to hang it up when it's time instead of kind of, I don't want to say killing their legacy, but maybe rusting it a little. You know what I mean? Are you a kind of guy, would you go out like Bettis on top, or would you come back for a couple more years just to collect that paycheck?
I think I'd go out like Bettis, go out on top. And like you're saying, sometimes you got to hang it up. You can't just completely drag it out. I think another kind of player who you're looking at as dragging their career out a little too long is Brady right now. He just doesn't look good. Sometimes you have to go out on top or go out looking good, because I feel like players sometimes they know that they're not still themselves, but they still want to go out and play for the love of the game. But sometimes you got to know when it's time, and then adequately kind of go out the way Serena did. She went out the whole, retirement tour, everything, give her flowers, respect what she did for the game of tennis. And then when she loses, when it's all said and done, thank you, but we're going to have to move on to the new era of tennis, see who the next person is going to be to step up and take the number one rank or take the best tennis player, in the world right now, title away from Serena. I just think sometimes you got to be able to step away and hang it up.
Who had the better finish, Mikey? Was it Albert Pujols or Serena Williams?
Oh, I'm going to go with Albert Pujols just because even on his way out, he still broke a couple records, or he still reached a couple of
Got to 700.
insane milestones that we may never see again in our lifetimes.
I can appreciate that. I think I'm backing you on that one. I like Pujols and the way he went out. It wasn't
as much as I
top.
hate the guy, but just because of what he did to the Pirates. But
well, he was the Pirate killer for years, and then when he went over to the AL, it's like, all right, see you, bye, thanks. Probably one of the reasons that the Pirates made the playoffs when they did was they didn't have to deal with Albert Pujols. All right, so we're gonna shift over from unhesitating sports history. Mikey, you wanted to be on this show today. I'm wondering because you popped in right last minute. Why? What do you want to talk about today? What could you ever want to talk about on a Thursday on the eve of football playoff season, my friend?
Maybe it's the Beaver Local Beavers. I think I got it. The Beaver Local Beavers heading into the playoffs. It's going to be their first real home playoff game. I get they had one COVID year, but they didn't get the same atmosphere that they're going to get on Friday. So it's a very exciting time for the Beavers right now. Again, you said it, almost like Christmas Eve. That's what Chris texted the group chat today. It's almost like Christmas Eve for everybody at Ysn, especially over here at Beaver Local. What
is the feeling inside the hallways of Beaver Local? I mean, Beav Nation's got to be excited, right?
Oh, it's an electric feeling right now. I think that a lot of people kind of understand. Obviously, it's the playoffs and anything can happen, but Beaver Local got a pretty solid draw to try to make something happen and go far in these playoffs. They get 2 home playoff games as well as the 2 seed in Division 4 Region 13. So if they can handle business against the 5-5 Coventry Comets tomorrow, then they're going to go on to play the winner of Salem and Canton South, which would, whoever wins that game, Beaver Local would get a great second round game. But everybody kind of understands that we're not sure when this is going to happen again. It could happen next year, but it could be quite a few years before this kind of thing happens again, where you get a team with this steam, an 8-2 record, their best regular season finish since I think 2005. So this is a season and a playoff run that, as far as it goes, Beaver Local is going to want to cherish, because we don't know when they're going to see something like this ever again.
You never know. I mean, you guys still have a young team, really. If you look at it, the roster's young. Your dad's been a godsend to Beaver Local, coming in and making the guys put in the work, making the coaches put in the work, and obviously putting the work in himself. Have you seen a change in Dad around the house?
There's no change in him around the house. I will say there is a change, obviously, when football season starts, but since July or August, since the offseason workout started, there really hasn't been a change in him walking around the house, at least. Not one that I can decipher. He can be a tough guy to read sometimes, even living with him for 18 years. All
right, I have to ask you a question. In order to get to where I want to ask you a question, I have to share the clip. So without further ado, where's it at? Hang on. I forgot that I pulled it in differently. All right, so I got to file this in, and then it is, which one is it? It's got to be this one. We're going to go with this one. All right. As it pulls in, there it is. All right. 3, 2, 1. By the way, forewarning, hold your eardrums. This week's Plays of the Week brought to you by NST Sports Performance. Visit them on the web at nstsports.com.
And I was looking at the first
I was going to
stick.
say 24 is up.
And O'Brien released it, picked off Casey Lugers, and he'll be pushed out of bounds.
Balone from the gun. He's got 4 wide. He's going to have to throw it here. Way downfield. He's got a man open! Brady Banowski, he's in!
Shotgun for Klein. Takes the snap. Fakes the give to White. Takes it himself. Up the middle. Klein! For the lead! He is in! Beaver Local on top! How about this kid?
the NST Sports Performances of the Week, highlighted by none other than the McNuggies maestro, Michael McKenzie. Take me through just that play at first. We'll go over the game, but take me through that play. And as an announcer, what you were thinking. Like, were you even searching for words, or were you just watching everything happen?
I mean, I going back and looking on it, I was just kind of watching everything happen, at least in the play. Once he scores the touchdown at that point, I'm like, okay, let's regroup here. Everybody's going crazy. So I've got something to kind of hold over, the noise here and think of something to say after the touchdown. So at that point, that's when I kind of started thinking again. But as the play unfolded, and it happened with a couple other plays in that fourth quarter, considering how wild that game was. But as the play happened, I think I was just watching everything unfold, and the words just kind of came out as they did. And obviously they came out pretty loudly, I would say.
If we wanted to, dude, we could have had you on all three of those, 3, 2, and 1, because your calls of the Beavs going back up or getting back even and then getting that lead were amazing. The onside kicks and everything that came along with it. Walk me through that game, the emotions of that game in particular, with everything it had on the line, with that 2 seed on the horizon, everybody counting out Beaver Local because of who the other team played. What was it like for you to go through that game and just kind of, again, ride that roller coaster?
I mean, it was absolutely awesome. In the 4 years, or the 5 years, I should say, that I've been calling games for Beaver Local, I can easily say that there wasn't a game that kind of could have matched up to the excitement level of that game. Again, you said it, a lot of emotions. And after Wheeling Central Catholic scores the touchdown to go up 35-21, at that point, you're just looking for scenarios where this game can kind of go off the rails, get crazy. But Beaver Local, they needed kind of a crazy comeback because you're down 2 touchdowns with 8.5 minutes left to go. So you got a hill to climb to get back into the game. And then the perfect storm, really, I would describe it, for Beaver Local happened, especially with the kickoff return touchdown. You execute the pooch kick, not really an onside kick. That's what at least Coach McKenzie said. It's not technically an onside kick. It's kind of a pooch kick. So you don't have to give them the ball at the 50. You give them the ball at the 35, but still, nonetheless, you're trying to steal a possession on special teams. And that's kind of a special teams coach's dream, because that is exactly what got Beaver Local back into that game. And I would say essentially won the game, because it really jolted the comeback for Beaver Local. But just the energy in that stadium, the excitement of that game, I don't think I've seen it on a high school field ever. Nonetheless, just being at Beaver Local for the past 5-6 years.
We keep talking about Beaver Local being one of the hottest teams in the area right now, being that, what they were looking like at the beginning of the year to what they're looking like now. What do you kind of contribute that to? Is it a multitude of things? Is it just the player performances? Is it are they cracking the books a little more? Are they watching more video? What are they doing, Mike?
I would say it's a multitude of things. First, kind of simplifying the game. And that's what a couple of the coaches are kind of saying. We made them think too much the first couple of weeks of the season, and we gave up big plays, gave up 41 points the first week, 40 points the second week, and that's really what killed Beaver Local against Salem and Indian Valley. Week 3, you simplify the game against Lyndon McKinley. They dominate then, and since then, Beaver Local's really just been a freight train. I think on the field, at least, it's simplifying the game, both on and off the field. Another thing, just kind of playing together as a team, not kind of faltering late in games when the chips are down and things aren't going your way. It's been staying together as a team for Beaver Local. Against Indian Creek, they won that game 56-13. But after the first quarter, I don't know, I just accidentally moved my mic. But against Indian Creek, first quarter was kind of sluggish. It was a sluggish 14-7 start, and Indian Creek, it kind of felt like defensively they figured Beaver Local out. But being able to stay together, make the necessary adjustments, and not really quit on each other, being able to play together as a team, that has been kind of both on and off the field what has allowed Beaver Local to kickstart their season and get to an 8-2 point here heading into the playoffs.
What I love is the preparation from all the team, Beaver Local, each and every week. It seems like they get better and better and better. That's what we want. But from our standpoint, you, my friend, the preparation just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And I feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing in the classroom. You're on the golf team. You're getting your senior pictures, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But you're also just killing preparation for your games that you have each and every Friday night. What preparation, if you were kind of telling anybody that wanted to be a YSN announcer to get to the level that you're at right now, which is a pretty high level, what kind of preparation goes into that?
I think it just starts with getting to know what the coaches and players are kind of thinking going into a game. Yeah, obviously, I get an advantage that some people may not. I go to school with the players every day. I live with the head coach, so I get a little bit of an extra edge when trying to figure out what the team's thinking, what the kind of mindset is, how the other team's looking heading into a game. But just knowing what the team you're covering is kind of thinking going into a game, being able to know kind of some nuggets and talking with the coach and a player before a game to get some interview points, get some talking points going into a game, and then just asking the coach for stats. I understand that, again, it might be different with some people. I get to ask the coach who is my dad for stats, but that's something I also would think that going into a game you should know. It's a nice piece of information to have before a game and kind of add on as a game goes on. Player has a big game, you get to look back. Either they're only having 10 catches for 100 yards heading into a game all season, and then they go absolutely ballistic, or it's a player who's got 8 touchdowns and over 600 rushing yards going into a game, and he's having another 150-yard 2-touchdown game. So I think that knowing the stats and being able to know what a team's heading into a game, that's a couple of big things before going into a game.
All right. So you have been Han Solo the entire year, right? And now joining you.
I think it's been 5 years.
Well, 5 years. I'm sorry. I shorted you a few years. When you were in 8th grade doing games for us, and you were still an unbelievable announcer. But now you get to share the booth. We're trying to bring in all of our announcers and make the broadcast even better, level it up. It's going to be hard to do so, but we're bringing in a guy that loves the game, loves the Beavs, and of course loves YSN, Chris Sigler, who has been doing unbelievable preparation just to try to play catch up with you, Mike. So at the end of the day, what are your expectations for your Chewbacca, so to speak, that's going to be riding with you in the Millennium Falcon tomorrow night?
Oh, I'm expecting Chris to have a great game. We called half a volleyball game together. The roles were a little bit different than they were because I went on color, he did play-by-play, but the broadcast was absolutely great. And I can't wait to call a game with Chris. And I will say, I've loved doing games solo for the better part of 5 years now. But it's also going to be nice to have a fellow Beaver Local alum and somebody who has as much, if not more, passion for Beaver Local than myself. Have him alongside me. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
How many times do you expect to call him Josh during the broadcast? Because
I'm going to make sure it's 0. I'm going to make sure that it is 0. And every time I call him Josh, I know he'll correct me, but I'm going to sincerely apologize. I'm going to make sure I know it's Chris. I know it'll be Chris.
That's the noise he makes. Like I don't like only he can do. I can't do the noise he makes. But I'm excited for you guys' broadcast. 2 people that care a heck of a lot about that football team. Going to be fun. All right, I got to ask you. So I'm on Facebook. I'm scrolling away earlier this week, and I see a guy that tags your mom, I think, on Facebook, and then you guys, which by the way, your senior pictures look awesome. Like, you are intense. You're not smiling at all when the golf side, but it looks good, man. The stroke looks good. But I gotta ask, I watched this little TikTok video, and you missed some ridiculously easy putts. I've seen you hit. Was it the pressure?
It happens. No, I think it was being rusty. I don't think I've played in about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. So I'm going to chalk it up to being rusty.
And you had the pink ball going too, which I can appreciate. October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You had the pink ball going. From your standpoint, what has come easier to you, the game of golf or the game of broadcasting?
I'd say the game of broadcasting, just because I feel like I've been into it a lot longer and been perfecting my craft, so to speak, for a lot longer than golf. I just got into golf the summer before freshman year. Meanwhile, broadcasting, it's been since I've been 10 years old. So I would say just being in the game of broadcasting longer, I'd say it comes easier.
I love the picture of you and John Buccigross. You in your little suit, like you were just a little cubby, and you're interviewing John Buccigross. Do you remember the questions you asked him that day?
I'm gonna be honest. No, I do not remember the questions I
Which is
asked
a
him that day,
shock.
but I had them. I had them written down on a piece of paper.
You were
So
looking at it. The picture that I
Yeah.
saw had you looking at the questions. If you had to ask John Buccigross one question now, as an 18-year-old and a senior in high school, what would it be?
I just asked him what's his best piece of advice for somebody that would be coming out of college with a bachelor's degree looking for a job in sports broadcasting.
Look at you. Still.
No, obviously that day is going to be still 5 years down the road, but it still would be nice to get that question in.
You're still looking ahead. I mean, you've always been looking ahead. You're incredible. Most kids are just trying to enjoy their senior year. Like, I feel like I want you to enjoy it, but I feel like you're over it. You're like already planning out the rest of your life.
And I will say I'm absolutely stoked for basketball season. I think we got non-football player tryouts next week. Got open gym later tonight, so
Ooh.
I'm very much looking forward to basketball season. I'm gonna try to cherish that as much as possible because I feel like we got a good chance to be good this year.
Well,
But obviously got to follow through.
And that's the thing. We had a conversation a couple of days ago about multi-sport athletes. You obviously being one. We even mentioned your name. You got golf, you YSN, which I count, basketball and baseball. What are you looking most forward to? I mean, you're already a third in to your senior year. The last 2/3 of your year as a senior, what are you looking forward to most to accomplishing or to kind of having happen?
I would definitely say basketball and baseball season. Everybody, you guys know me. I'm a big sports guy, so
No.
obviously I'm going to be looking forward. I know, a bit of a shocker, but I'm obviously looking forward to both basketball and baseball season. But obviously, the friendships at school, everything about school aside from the actual schoolwork itself. That I'm looking forward to that. It's obviously been good the first third of the year, and it will be for the next 2/3 of the year. But I think mainly basketball and baseball season, being able to step on the court, step on the baseball field one last time with the guys I've been doing it with for the past 4 going on 5 years. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Since it's Halloween on Monday, I got to ask you, are you still getting out there and trick-or-treating? Is your brother trick-or-treating? Is anybody trick-or-treating in the McKenzie household this year?
I don't know about this year. I do know Nicholas was trick-or-treating last year, so it's not completely dead yet. But I have graduated to passing out candy with my mom for the past couple of years. So I will say it's been a couple of years since I've been out trick-or-treating.
All right. For all the people that are going to be stopping by the McKenzie household, the residence, the manor, whatever you want to call it, what's the candy of choice that you're handing out this year? Because listen, some houses are avoided because of what they hand out. So I'm praying for you, Mikey. What are you throwing out there for kids this year?
I will say that my mom makes sure she goes out. She gets the good candy bars, like those big variety packs, like Kit Kats, Reese's, Hershey bars. She's making sure that everybody's stopping by the McKenzie house every year. But I think the main thing that everybody grabs at first glance, the first go around is Hershey bars. I think that's what we run out of first pretty much every year. But
really?
Kit Kats are a pretty close second.
Oh, Kit Kats are money. That's always my number one draft pick. What's your number one draft pick?
My number one draft pick. Whew, this is a tough one. I'd probably have to go. I'd have to. Yeah, I'd have to go with Reese's. I'll go Reese's. Can't go wrong with peanut butter and chocolate.
All right, I asked this the other night. Is Reese's a candy bar or not?
Is it a candy bar? That's tough. I don't think I've ever had that debate before.
Noodle on that one, young man.
I might have to think about that a little longer, but right now I'm going to say no.
Okay, we're on the same page on that.
I'm going to say no.
We're on the same page because Now the
it's a
argument can be
circle.
the argument can be made now because it used to be you had like 2 or 3 Reese's in a pack. And to me, if you have to have 2 or 3, it's not really a candy bar. Candy bar is like one thing. But now they have like the Snickers that are multi and everything's like multi now. So just to make it a little easier for processing. So I'm going to be with you on that one. All right. What was the best Halloween costume that you've ever had, I guess?
Oh, I think it was in second grade. I dressed up as, I forget what version of it was. I dressed up as an iPhone. I would definitely say that was my favorite Halloween costume.
Did you have apps on yourself?
Yeah, I had. I think I had like Madden Mobile on the bottom left corner, and everybody would come up and tap Madden Mobile.
Oh, Mikey, that's a good one. Yeah, we were in second grade.
Yeah, that was in second grade. So that was a heavy costume to have to carry around.
10 years ago
for second grade, Mike.
Oh my goodness. All right. I think I'm out of Halloween. I mean, you're obviously going to be back on before Christmas, so I don't have to ask you what you want for Christmas. What is your favorite holiday in general?
I'm going to go with Easter.
Wow.
I'm going to go with Easter because it's always right around the start of baseball season, March Madness, and right around that. And it's also right around my birthday. So it's a lot kind of packed in to that holiday weekend or the holiday weeks. So I would definitely have to go with Easter.
So you get your Easter presents, your Easter basket, and then you get your Mikey presents and your Mikey basket.
Yep.
I like it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, you going to stick around?
Why not?
All right.
I got nothing better to do.
Let's talk some more football. I want to talk about players, and we've done this before, and it went over really well. Players in high school and who they remind you of in the pros. Players in high school now and who they remind you of at the professional level of football in the NFL. We're going to take a break. We come back. All of that right here on the Ysn Power Hour.
I support police funding, securing our borders, and parental rights in education. I'm attorney Mark Hanni, the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. I will always follow the law.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mark Hanni judge. Dave Johnson, chairman.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
I'm Mark Hanni, a conservative Republican. I believe in family values, the Second Amendment, and our Constitution. Vote for the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. Protect your rights. Vote Hanni for judge.
All right, back we come to the YSN Power Hour. Mike McKenzie making a special stop by, a fancy guest appearance today for Double M. All right, before the break, we kind of teased it. We're going to talk about players in high school under the YSN banner and who they remind us of, Mikey, in professional sports, in professional football. So a guy that I think you know, guy that I know that you love calling. Let's go with Austin Klein. Who does he remind you of football-wise in the NFL?
This one's tough. I'm gonna go with Josh Allen because Klein loves to take some shots down the field. He's got the arm to do it. But another thing, he loves to run the football. He'll take a hit. He'll put his shoulder down in the open field, try to run somebody over. And running the football was really the go-to for Klein against Wheeling Central Catholic. The 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 to tie, 1 to go ahead. He had 3 total. I think he had over 200 rushing yards in that game. He's the team's leading rusher by about 200, maybe 300 yards. So I think that his, using his big frame to run in the open field, his physicality running in the open field, and then the willingness to take shots down the field, I think that the comparison to Josh Allen would be the one I would go with.
All right, I'm going to go Lamar Jackson because I think he uses those legs so well and a lot better than most. Yeah, he likes to take those shots downfield, but you really have to commit to one thing or the next. You can't protect against both with AC. So I'm going to say Lamar Jackson. And I think that's 2 really good comparisons for this guy. And I'm going to hold on to my Josh Allen comparison because I got somebody in mind for that. And we don't have to go very far. In fact, let's just roll it out right now. My Josh Allen is Billy Skirpak of South Range, a guy that doesn't always have to throw the ball because he's got a great line ahead of him. He's got a great backfield behind him. But if you're going to put the game on his shoulders, he's going to make you pay for it, whether it's with his legs or whether it's with his arms. So Billy Skirpak, to me, reminds me of Josh Allen in Buffalo. How about you?
I'll go ahead and go Josh Allen twice here because you're right. South Range hasn't been in a lot of tight games this year, but if they're going to be in a tight one here in the playoffs, I feel like that Skirpak could make a lot of plays to win games. I mean, if he has the ball last, I think you can pretty much chalk up a South Range victory. If he can be clutch. He will be clutch in the playoffs for the Raiders. I think he's going to be a big reason they make it a long way.
All right. So maybe I'm going to stretch the rules here. But for Grant Hitchcock of Jefferson, I'm going to say Deion Primetime Sanders because he is not just good at one position. He can hurt you. And I'm going to combine this with Alec Grazib of Struthers as well because both of these guys, any 8 guys, wear the same colors but for different teams, and they can hurt you the same way that Primetime used to hurt the Dallas Cowboys before he played for them. And every other NFC team because you can put him on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. You can run the ball. He can intercept the ball. He can pick up fumble recoveries, kickoff returns, whatever, and take them back to the house and hurt you. So those 2, that's who I'm going to go with. Who's a player that reminds you of somebody? McNuggies? You don't have to use Hitchcock and Grizz. Who's another guy you want to compare?
I'm gonna go outside Beaver Local here. I'm gonna say Vinny Balone here. And I might stretch the rules a little bit. A retired player. I'm going to say Big Ben Roethlisberger just because he's a big type. He's a gunslinger, throws a lot of touchdowns, throws the ball down the field, got a big arm, and he's going to use it. Also, big body, obviously, bigger than a lot of other players on the field, including his own and opposing linemen, but really just a gunslinger type. He's just going to make plays with his arm more times than not. He's going to throw a lot of touchdowns. And he has for Louisville, and I feel like he's going to continue doing it into the playoffs.
I'm going to stand with you in that Louisville, and I'm going to say Anthony Luceni, one of his top targets, is a kind of Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski hybrid. And what I like about it is he's got the finesse of Kelce, the athleticism of Kelce, but if you get in his way, he is going to Thanos your tail right back to another dimension. And he's done it so well this year. So 2 great Louisville guys being compared. Ben Roethlisberger, which my favorite player of all time, and certainly Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski, 2 guys that I'm just going to guess are destined for Canton. So that's speaking pretty high of Mr. Luceni. Let's go. Who's the best defensive player you've seen this year, and who would you compare him to?
The best defensive, that's tough. I'm gonna stick with Beaver Local here. I'm gonna go with Dylan Ferguson. Plays kind of a safety linebacker or hybrid role for Beaver Local defensively. I know he doesn't have the long hair and everything. I'm gonna stretch the rules again. I'm gonna say Troy Polamalu. He'll hit somebody. He can be sent on blitz packages, but every time he hits somebody, you get the oohs and the ahs from the stands because he just hit him hard. He can cover very well as well. He's had a couple of pass deflections that have resulted in interceptions as well this year for Beaver Local. That ability to play really center field, play safety pretty well, and then just kind of load the box up or pressure a quarterback or make a play in the run game and then make a big hit. I'd say Ferguson is kind of a bit of a Palomalu type of player.
And you guys have a guy, speaking of Steelers and comparing Beaver Local, you guys got a guy on your team you call the Beard. Tell me about him.
Yeah, Caden Foster. It's been a slogan kind of this year, Fear the Beard Foster. He's the second leading receiver on the team. He didn't have a touchdown for the first, I believe, 5 or 6 maybe weeks of the season. Then he had a 2-touchdown game, and it's been a lot of end zone trips for Foster. I think he's at either 4 or 5 right now on the season, over 400 receiving yards. He's really mainly used as a deep threat. He's Klein's favorite receiver to throw the ball to down the field. Had a touchdown, the first touchdown of the game last week against Wheeling Catholic Central, but yeah, got a kind of a nickname, Fear the Beard. And he's also made some plays defensively. He's got a couple of interceptions and had the one that ended up setting up the Klein touchdown run to go up, the one part of the NST plays of the week that we showed earlier.
Who is, and listen, I got to ask you, are you jealous of the beard? Because I am. I can grow a beard and I'm jealous of it.
I mean, I will give some credit. It's a nice beard, but I'm not too big of a beard guy, so I wouldn't say I'm necessarily jealous of it, but I definitely have to give respect to it. That took some time. I mean, he's been growing that since I would say sophomore year.
Squeaky clean McKenzie, no doubt about it. Richie Giuliano chimes in, says Drew DeShields reminds him of Pat Mahomes. I think there's a lot to that. I would turn it a little bit and talk about the guy that you're not so crazy about anymore. Same guy wearing number 12. It's Tom Brady. I think that anytime Drew DeShields is on the field, he gives an instant shot in the arm to West Branch, and he controls the game. He manages the game like Tom Brady. I know what Richie's alluding to is the Pat Mahomes-like effort in the Alliance game, throwing the ball from all different angles and going down, throwing the ball and having success. So I'm with both of these. Is there anybody that I know you've seen Drew from the standpoint of his highlights and things on YSN? Anybody remind you instantly of Drew DeShields?
I would say I'm going to kind of find that happy medium between Mahomes and Brady. I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers.
Ooh.
I mean, DeShields obviously has the savviness, a shot in the arm, like you said. He plays the game a smart way. But he'll take some shots down the field. He'll play aggressively as well. And he's a very accurate quarterback. Deadly accurate, really, for West Branch. Takes a lot of shots down the field, especially in that Salem game for West Branch. Didn't know if he was going to play, and he comes in and he plays the way that he did against the Quakers. Played well against them last year as well. I would say DeShields kind of reminds me of Aaron Rodgers because he's got that sneaky bit of athleticism to kind of make something happen in the pocket, but he's also deadly accurate.
So I'm going to bring in Sigler here. He says, Wyatt Morris reminds him of Derek. Derek Henry. I like that, except for I think Derek Henry to me is Jontrell Mixon of Valley Christian. That dude finds the end. Not that Wyatt doesn't. Wyatt reminds me of Mike Allstott, like a ton. Like when they featured Mike Allstott in the backfield or Peyton Hillis, for all you Browns fans out there, I really like Derrick Henry being compared to Jontrell Mixon because if you saw that last Wellsville game that Valley played in, there was a never-ending fight to get him down before he touched pay dirt, and nobody could bring down the King. And the King Jontrell, or as we call him here, Trizzy Mix-a-Lot, made his way all the way to the end zone with Tigers dragging along the way. So I think Wyatt Morris, more of a Mike Allstott, which are same type of backs, but Wyatt is, I don't even want to guess his weight. He runs like he's 240, and he's every bit as fast as I think the majority of his teammates. And he's got getaway speed. Whereas Jontrell is just going to run through you and steal your soul along the way. So I like it. Anybody in this, who reminds you of Derrick Henry from the?
I'm gonna I'm going to piggyback off of you and say John Trail Mixon, because I watched the end of that Wellsville game, because I think Beaver Local had a pretty quick game. I mean, watching the end of that Wellsville game, I mean, I just looked at the screen and said, man, who is this kid? I mean, like, bigger than everybody else on the field, tough to bring down. He definitely reminds you a lot of Derrick Henry. Just going to run through anybody who stands in front of him, and he's going to get to the end zone quite often. And he really won that game for Valley Christian in crunch time. They needed him, and Mixon delivered.
Tua Tagovailoa. I'm going to go to Jackson Johnson of Salem, the left-handed gunslinger, can run it, can throw it, and really the team isn't the same if you take him away. So this being his senior year, I think Jackson, Double J, the American Missile, whatever you want to call him, they're going to miss him a ton in Quakertown. And just like every time Tua gets hurt, they miss him in Miami. So I'm going to go with that matchup as well. Mikey, do you have any other ones that really stand out to you that you want to point to?
I was actually going to point to Jackson Johnson here in a little bit as well, but I'm going to have two comparisons here for Johnson. In the current NFL setting, I'm going to go with Jackson Johnson as my Lamar Jackson comparison, just because of how fast and how great of a runner he can be for Salem. Against Beaver Local, they schemed him for like 250 rushing yards, and he threw for 200 plus passing yards as well, en route to putting up 40 points on Beaver Local in that win. I mean, he was so great running the football. But looking at left-handed gunslingers, for a third time, I'm pointing to a retired player. I'm going Michael Vick for Johnson.
Ooh, okay. All right. Mason Ludwig, a guy that I know you got to watch play. Great lineman, great leader. Reminds me so much of Joe Thomas of the Browns. And because no matter what happened during the season, he was as trusty. He was a Hall of Famer. Mason Ludwig to me is a surefire Hall of Famer in Pottertown someday, and probably someday soon, because of everything that he's done. Multi-sport athlete on the hardwood, also on the baseball field, a great pitcher as well. I think that young man reminds me a ton. The leadership values, the great play, no matter the score, never gives up on his teammates, never finishes until the final horn is blown. Mason Ludwig to me is Joe Thomas. Agree, disagree?
I would agree with the Joe Thomas comparison. One I had for Mason Ludwig, I'd go Trent Williams in today's NFL setting, just because of how many different ways you can use Ludwig. You can use him at guard, at tackle. Heck, you can even line him up at the tight end position, bring him on a motion, or bring him as a pulling blocker, and he'll make a block. And they tried something against Beaver Local that was a bit unprecedented. It didn't end up working out, but I thought it was definitely creative. You put Ludwig at the tight end position, give him a double reverse, and let him throw a pass. It almost worked for East Liverpool, but ended up in a tipped interception for Beaver Local. So didn't obviously end up working out, but definitely creative, and just one of the many different ways you can use Mason.
One of the last ones I have, Cam Smith of Austintown Fitch, is a guy that reminds me now, especially that he's lined up behind center of a Jalen Hurts. And a lot of people don't understand how good Jalen Hurts is, because the offense that he's in right now isn't exactly suitable to him. But Cam Smith coming in late in the season, Deshaun Vaughn gets injured, out for the year. Cam Smith is going to pick things up, I think, much to the degree that that Jalen Hurts has the Eagles often flying here in the 2022 season. I really like what Cam Smith and the ability of what Cam Smith can do for this team. It's going to be a tough ride in D2. We all know that. But when you have an athletic quarterback and you have guys that are great blockers like Fitch does, I think that can pose some problems, especially when there's not a whole lot of film on Cam Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Smith could be kind of one of those sneaky quarterbacks, sneaky guys that could end up posing problems for defenses. I mean, when you don't have the type of film or the scouting report on Smith that some of the other quarterbacks and the other guys in D2 are, I think it gives kind of an upper hand to Smith and Fitch. And I mean, they've been playing very well all year, as has Smith. I think he could have kind of a special run here in the playoffs.
McNuggies, I'm just going to guess that you're going to be on the show tomorrow talking picks and stuff like that. So we don't want to give too much away, but for anybody that wants to know about your game tomorrow, the Beaver Local game, what do you have to tell them? What kind of preview can you give them, especially given it's a home game for the Beavs?
I mean, obviously, it's going to be a 2:15 matchup. Beaver Local hosting Akron Coventry. And Coventry, they're not as much of an exciting team as Beaver Local, but they're going to bring kind of the same game plan or play style to the plate. They got a lot of athletes and a lot of weapons on offense that they're going to try to utilize. They're going to try to utilize their speed and stretch the field both horizontally and vertically to try to beat you. But Beaver Local's defense, despite a performance last week where they gave up 35 points, they played pretty solidly against Wheeling Catholic Central. Just gave up a couple of big plays and early on kind of had some broken coverages. Seam routes really killed them, but they end up making the necessary adjustments. Shut out the Maroon Knights in the third quarter, only gave up 7 points in the fourth quarter after giving up 28 in the first half. So that Beaver Local defense is still playing very well despite the 35 that got up on the scoreboard last week. And then the offense obviously still firing on all cylinders. And even Coach McKenzie will say that last week was a sloppy 49 points. I don't know how you can say it's a sloppy 49 points, but that's what Beaver Local kind of came to the conclusion of when they went back and watched the film throughout the week. So they're going to be looking to put together kind of a more well-rounded performance, looking at the smaller details heading into this game against the Coventry Comets. And it's going to be a good game. There's going to be a lot of speed all over the field.
I like fast games, and not like fast games like they're over quickly. I like games that feature fast athletes because I think there's a lot more opportunity for splash plays, which is one of the main reasons I love watching your tape. And of course, the great calls that go along with it because you don't miss a beat. But when it comes to those splash plays, those 40-yarder plus plays, Beaver Local might be one of the biggest splash play teams on the entire roster for YSN. So when you're getting ready to do a call and you know that they can score from anywhere on the field, what are you looking for? Are you looking just straight at the football and who has it? Are you looking kind of the lineup? It's a little bit different when you're doing a one-man band like you've done for the last 5 years, as you pointed out. But what are you looking for specifically, especially when you know this team as well as you know this team?
Well, I think that when they run certain plays, you're looking for certain things. There's one play, it's on film quite a lot. They'll run a play action and try to get a shot down the field to their tight end, Dylan Ferguson, which I feel like it works for a wide open touchdown pretty much every time. But when they run that play action and Klein kind of spins out of it after faking a handoff to either Caleb White or Blake Lucas, you're immediately looking right down the field. You see Ferguson, and you know you've got a wide open touchdown call pretty much every time. But the majority of the time, I'm kind of looking at the ball, kind of looking at the backfield, really seeing what Klein's or what White, if he's got the handoff, what they're kind of looking for holes to maybe run and make a play, or in Klein's case, looking down the field, see where he's kind of scanning on a defense. More often than not, I'll look in the backfield, but if they run certain plays like a play action or a little pitch play or something, you're looking down the field to see, okay, how far can this play go? How big of a play is this going to be for Beaver Local, who you mentioned, they kind of make a living off of splash plays.
I love it. And Mike Tomlin would take a few of them if he could at this point with the Steelers season. All right, we got to get to the 5 games that everybody needs to watch. You ready? So we're just going to throw these out there because tomorrow night begins. And again, fans, remember, before you the emails and the texts and the comments start pouring in, $9.99 tomorrow night gets you every single game on YSN. Why are we charging now? Because it's the postseason, and we are charged a fee per game by the Ohio High School Athletic Association. And that fee adds up very quickly when you're doing 21, 22, 23 games like we're going to be doing tomorrow night. So without further ado, in no particular order, we're going to give you the five games that you need to be watching and get the most bang out of your buck for $9.99 tomorrow night on your sports network. You ready? Let's do it. All right, here we go. So in my 5 spot, I have, and this people are going to call me nuts on this, I have New Philly and Canfield. New Philly, obviously a team that Canfield feels like they can handle, which is great, and I think they will. However, New Philadelphia is also very familiar with the Cardinals. So let's not just go all haywire and say that this is an automatic victory, because when there is familiarity, when there is familiarity, there is opportunity. So that being said, I still think Canfield wins. However, that's my number 5 game to watch. You might want to watch that one early and see how things are going and progress throughout the night. In my number 4 slot, I am going to go with Poland and Jefferson. I'm going to go with Poland and Jefferson because, again, two teams very familiar, McNuggies, with each other. Jefferson had the upper hand earlier in the year. They got a win. I think it was less than 10 points, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. But never bet against experience, especially when it comes to playoff teams. Poland has that experience. Jefferson does not. They do not. So be careful when you're watching this game because Poland can drip the clock away because if Grant Hitchcock doesn't have the football, he can't hurt you. He can't hurt you. Keep that in mind as Tom Pavlansky's Poland Bulldogs roll into Jefferson Starship tomorrow night. The next one I want you to keep an eye on. Underdog, Salem, taking on Canton South in our game number 3. Okay? Two teams, again, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, familiar with each other. Both teams used to be in the EBC, the NBC. Canton South left. And now Salem, who's a very physical team, a very fast team, has the opportunity to knock off, I think, one of the only really chances, in my opinion. I think that's the only one I'm going to go with. No, I take that back. There's 2 that I'm going to go with. Keep an eye on Salem. This as your 3 spot should be super, super sweet. And Salem could do the upsets here tomorrow night. Number 2, Mikey, I'm going to lean on you for this one. Cardinal Mooney and Edison. Mooney is the unstoppable force right now. And I'm not just talking about wins and losses. I'm talking about the way they line up in Division 5. There's a lot of people that are looking at this and thinking, oh my goodness, here we go. This is the game of the game. Now, unfortunately, we will not have this game on YSN. We will not have this game on YSN. So I'm plugging it purely for the fact, that people recognize we don't have it. And it's frustrating to us. NFHS has exclusive rights when they want that. And Edison just basically said, hey, NFHS is here. They want the game. Unfortunately, you can't be here. So YSN will not have it. So technically we have a disqualification on this. So it can't really be our number 2 game, Mikey. But I do want you to kind of tell me about Edison, because at the end of the day, I keep hearing this from people. Edison's schedule soft. You know, they're favored, they're underdogs by 28 points or whatever it may be. You went to Edison for a time. You understand the way of life down there. Talk to me about why people should not sleep on the Wildcats.
I mean, I still feel like even though they're a 10-0 team, they're going to be the 4 seed in this game. So from a seeding standpoint, obviously they're not the underdog, but from the fantastic 50 standpoint of spreads and everything, yeah, you said it. They're going to be a 28-point underdog or right around that. But this is going to be a home playoff game for Edison. I'm not quite sure, how they feel heading into this one. Obviously, they probably feel like they should be favorites in this game. But it's going to be on their home field. I don't know when the next time they're going to get a home playoff game is, because a lot of the good players on this team, especially their quarterback, Gage Klein, who a lot of people rave about when they watch Edison, he's a senior this year, so he's going to be gone. There's a lot of experience on this team, which has kind of been half the reason they get here to 10-0, but the soft schedule obviously is what a lot of people are going to point at when trying to pick this game. But 10-0 is still 10-0. You got to go out and you still have to play the games no matter who you schedule. And Edison has done that, and they've won every game pretty convincingly. What was their closest game? I think it was Indian Creek this past week.
Or Matthews.
Well, one of those two was Edison's closest games. But I feel like they could come out with kind of like a fire lit underneath of them. They're going to have a home crowd, which is going to be energized, because Edison doesn't know when the next time their community is going to get a night quite like tomorrow night against Cardinal Mooney, a chance to really prove themselves and kind of make a name for themselves, make some noise really heading into these playoffs. And Cardinal Mooney could be the toughest opponent they face the entire bracket. So Edison knows they have to come out firing. And I think they could. I think they easily could come out and make this a very good game with Cardinal Mooney.
All right. The fill-in number 2 game, 2A, whatever you want to call it, to me is going to be Garfield and Conneaut. It's an 8-9 matchup. Garfield on the road going to Conneaut. People have Conneaut as the underdog in this one, even at home, much like the Edison Mooney game. I like Garfield as well, but I don't like them as much as I think the 20-plus points that the spread is at right now, according to the Fantastic 50. So keep an eye on this game. Conneaut on their home field, and I think they've been playing some good football this year. I really do. Against, the Ashtabula teams. We hear Sam and Ryan talk about them all the time. So keep an eye on this game at number 2, but I have to point to number 1. This game, if you're not watching it, you're out of your mind. It's Alliance and Cheney, 2 very physical teams. I guess the spread is not a whole lot. I think it's 8 points, if I'm not mistaken. And when you're looking at that, Cheney being the home favorites, they might have a chip on their shoulder. I know Steve Leslie, God bless him, he and Jen are out tonight feeding the football team out of the goodness and kindness of their heart, making sure that they've got something to look forward to at the end of practice and getting them ready and filled and full of nutrients for their game. The Golden Dawn, I think, is the one providing the food. So thank you to Johnny Naples. Thank you to Steve Leslie. Thank you to Jen Zetz as well, because that's just good people doing good things for other good people. But as far as this goes, McNuggies, Cheney Alliance is going to be a dogfight tomorrow. I will 100% have it on in our booth. I'm excited. Again, Siggy said it best. You quoted him. Tomorrow is like Christmas, and we're living Christmas Eve tonight, man. And can't wait to go back and really start digging into my game a little bit with South Range and Liberty and see how things go. We'll go over some of the games we do have real quick while we have a couple minutes, as long as you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely not.
All right. So Mayfield and Fitch, we got it. New Philly, Canfield, we have it. Ursuline and Hawken, we'll have that one. Cheney and Alliance, we'll have that one. West Branch and Field, we'll have that. Beaver Local and Coventry, of course, we'll have that. Girard and Hubbard, Poland and Jefferson, Salem and Canton South, Edgewood and Struthers, Liberty and South Range. We move over to Garfield and Conneaut, Trinity and Valley Christian, Jackson, Milton, and Dalton. We also will have Pymatuning Valley and Brookfield, Mineral Ridge, and Canton Central Catholic, United and Rootstown, Matthews and Springfield, Lisbon. Believe it or not, we have Lisbon and Norwalk St. Paul. There was criticism from another media outlet at the beginning of the year about traveling 2 hours away. And well, we're traveling 2.5 for this one to bring it to you. Lisbon and Norwalk St. Paul, we will have that. Rick Daly, God bless you, and thank you. Southern and South Central, we'll have that. Lowville and Steubenville Central Catholic, and Warren JFK and Fairport Harding. We'll have all of those. Anything to add on? Let's put a bow on the show, buddy.
What I'm going to add on is kind of like a region to watch. Obviously, this is Beaver Local's region, but Division 4, Region 13, we got a lot of YSN schools in that region. There's a little section of the bracket. I think it's Jefferson, Girard, Hubbard, and Poland. I don't think that those are the matchups, but all 4 of those are in the same kind of section of that bracket. And then below that one, there's the possibility of a Beaver Local Salem rematch, and then West Branch at the top of the bracket. So that could be a very fun kind of region to watch play out.
My dude, I can't wait to listen to your broadcast tomorrow with Siggy. Good luck to you. And McNuggies, I mean this with my whole heart. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for us. We're so proud of you and everything that you've done and you've accomplished, and that you've yet to accomplish that you will very, very soon, man. Cannot wait to tell people that we knew you when. Congratulations, my friend.
Thanks. I appreciate it. We're not done yet. Still got a long playoff run to go.
Hell yeah, we do. For Mikey McNuggies, I'm DJ Yoakley. That's going to do it for this Thursday edition. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Super Show, where you can catch McNuggies once again dropping his picks and telling the world, according to McNuggies. I dig it. We'll see you tomorrow, 3 to 4, right here on YSN. YSN thanks you